One man's mistake, one man's action messed up a whole community. Our whole community is suffering to this day. These kids don't have nowhere to go. They have nothing to do. They have nothing to look up to no more. And the world still wants to know why. We want to know why would somebody do that to a person that was leading the whole community. Why? We want to know why. That's all we want to know is why. What would possess a person to take a person out of our community that was so powerful?
The total sentence would be 60 years to life in prison. The court should note that the other enhancements found true as to count 1 by the jury, the 1202.53B and the 1202.53C.
Welcome back to another video with IDN TV. Now we have some news for you guys. It's about the Nipsey Hussle case and the Eric Holder trial. Now today, February 22nd, 2023, a Crips gang member was sentenced to 60 years in prison for killing the beloved rapper Nipsey Hussle outside of his Crenshaw clothing store in 2019. Now, the Los Angeles County Superior Judge sentenced Eric Holder to 25 years to life in state prison for murdering Nipsey Hussle and an additional 25 years to life on that sentencing with an enhancement because he used a gun. Now, Holder must serve an additional 10 years in prison for assault convictions for shooting 2 other men who were with Hussle on the day of the killing. Now, this is what the judge said. Now, Holder, who is now 32 years old, was on a date with a girl at the shopping center where he approached Nipsey Hussle in front of the Marathon clothing store at Crenshaw Boulevard and Slauson Avenue. According to the reports, they say the two had a brief conversation, Holder and Hussle. That's when Holder returned minutes later with 2 handguns and opened fire in the middle of that parking lot, killing Hussle, whose real name was Armias Astrodome, and wounding 2 other men nearby. The assault was captured on video, and there was no question that Holder did it when the trial started last year. Instead, Eric Holder's legal defense, Aaron Jansen, argued that Holder should be only convicted for manslaughter rather than murder. Of course, he was convicted for that first-degree murder.
However, the sentence that the court is about to pronounce, I am very mindful of what was presented as to Mr. Holder's mental health history. I'm also mindful of the devastation caused to the victims and their families. So I think this sentence balances both. The principal term in this sentence will be count 3, the 245A2 on Mr. Latham. The court selects the midterm of 3 years in state prison. For the gun, there will be an additional 4 years in state prison consecutive, and then for the rape bodily injury allegation that was found true, it will be 3 years consecutive to that. So for count 3, it will be a total of 10 years in state prison. As to count 2, which was the attempted voluntary manslaughter, Mr. Latham being the victim, the court has doubts as to the viability of that count because there was no provocation by Mr. Latham. Same holds true for Mr. Villanueva. The court believes that it is 654, so that the court would impose the midterm of 3 years plus the 4 years and the 3 years, but stay those sentences. As to count 5, the 245A2 as to Mr. Villanueva, the court selects the midterm of 3 years plus the 4 years that's the midterm for the use of the gun. That's a total of 7 years, but run that concurrent. As to count 4, the attempted voluntary manslaughter, again, this court feels that 654 is applicable, so that it would impose the 3 years, the midterm, plus 4 years for the gun, but stay. Once again, if the court is incorrect about that application, it would be the midterm of 3 years plus 4 years for the gun, and that would run concurrent. As to count 6, Penal Code Section 2980081, possession of a firearm by a felon. As this was the gun used or one of the guns used by the defendant. Court feels this is 654 and would select the midterm of 2 years and stay that. Otherwise, it would be 2 years concurrent. As to count 1, the murder in the first degree of Mr. Askedon, the sentence will be the term prescribed by law, which is 25 years to life. In addition, there will be the 12022.53D allegation, which is consecutive. That will be an additional 25 years to life. So for count 1 alone, it would be 50 years to life. The total sentence would be 60 years to life in prison. The court should note that the other enhancements found true as to count 1 by the jury, the 12022.53B and the 12022.53C.
Now, according to the reports, they say Holder and Hustle were both members of the infamous Rolling 60s in the set of the Crips gang. Now, during the actual sentencing today, February of 2023, he was sentenced to that 60 years, like I said. Now, Douglas, who was known as Cowboy, who was one of Nipsey Hussle's closest friends, they did try to come into court, and they argued that Eric Holder had severe mental illnesses, and they actually read a letter from the defendant's father who claimed that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia at the age of 19. He also said that Eric Holder heard voices in his head, and it made him paranoid and erratic. In that letter, his father also described the situation where he threw a heavyweight through a window just 3 weeks prior to this shooting. He said that his son had a maniac episode because he feared of being murdered. Now, they did try to bring up Eric Holder's psychiatrist today during the sentencing, but the judge was not hearing it. He was ready to serve Eric Holder. He sentenced him to those 60 years. Cowboy, also known as Herman Douglas, he was heard singing "Hit the Road, Jack." Now, as Holder was being led away, Cowboy was kicked out of the courtroom after saying "Hit the road, Jack."
So I'm asking you, Judge, it really, the time, I don't care what you give this guy. It ain't about the time. I need to know why. I wish I could get that. His fate is sealed. He took a man's life, his life is getting taken. Simple as that. It goes against the body.
It's been a long journey for this 2019 since it happened, March 31st, 2019. We had the incident before it happened, then we heard the hearsay, then we had when Eric Holder got arrested, and then just a big gap between those years because of COVID and things like that. But now we finally got justice for Nipsey Hussle. It doesn't change the fact of, he takes away a lot of things and a lot of opportunities and, father, brother, things like that. That's all I have for you guys. Let me know in the comments below. If you've been following this Nipsey Hussle story since 2019, let me know the real ones, man, because I've been covering it since it happened. The day it happened and then till now in 2023. That's 4 years. It's crazy. Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe. I will be covering the XXXTentacion case, and I'm also following the YSL case until some fresh news comes out. I'm going to cover that until something pops up. So we'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks so much, man, for the support. I'll catch you in the next video.